You've got News Munchies with Ted Corliss, and I love to produce a cannabis-positive message in the universe. Not necessarily positive in the sense that I'd like you to smoke more of it, but instead give you an opportunity to have an intelligent conversation with others about the reformation, medicalization, and ultimate legalization of marijuana. Reach out to us at www.newsmunchies.com. You've got News Munchies with Ted Corliss. It is my indeed pleasure to talk to you today about dieting. Now, that doesn't sound very fun or interesting, I'm sure, but let me tell you about a diet that can, in fact, change your life the way that it has changed mine. And that is, I am in the world of ketogenesis. I have been on a keto diet now since May 28th, 2019. My daughter and I went to a candy store at the Tampa International Airport on our way to Denver, Colorado, and I bought like $50 worth of candy. And my daughter and I consumed as much of it as we could during the plane ride to Denver. And then when we landed, I went right over and threw it away right next to that other basket they have there for the people that throw their cannabis in. So here's the idea. I continue to promote a cannabis positive message in the world, positive in a way that people can make informed decisions based upon facts and truth and not on myth and legend and fear. Keep an eye on us at our website at www.newsmunchies.com as we address things like personal health and cannabis, like today's topic, or other things associated with politics, or generally anything that promotes the reformation of America's cannabis laws, either through decriminalization, through medicalization, or from education, which is what things like today are for. What exactly is a keto diet, and why am I talking about it in the context of cannabis? Well, first I'm going to give you an understanding as to what it means to be keto. I'm sure you know someone at work, or you have friends that are in this space, and I bet you if you bring it up, they get pretty crazy. And I'm going to explain why that is, why people are so passionate about this. The other thing I want to address is, if you're in a keto diet, what are you eating every day? And I'll tell you the meal of the day that you begin with to address from keto. The third issue I want to talk about is the role of cannabis products in the ketogenic lifestyle, or the maintaining a keto diet does not mean you can't consume cannabis products. In fact, it's going to mean they might help you with some of the edges people suffer through when trying to get into keto. Then at the very end, I want to ask you to start your own plan to head this direction. And I'm only going to ask you to commit to 10 days to trying this at no cost to yourself. And by the way, I'm not selling anything to you other than maybe a good idea. Let's get back to this idea of understanding ketogenesis. Ketogenesis is a state in the body where, rather than burning sugar that you can find in various forms and places in your body, you'll actually discover that you want to burn fat instead of sugar. Sugar, as I think I've referred to previously, is the devil's dandruff. And as time goes on, we learn more and more about the horrible things that sugar has done to our society. If you look back, for example, to the 1970s and 80s, the corn lobby really got to work, and they started selling people high fructose corn syrup that was coming from various agricultural products being promoted by various politicians. The idea here is, if you remember that horrible food pyramid, you're going to see corn all over it. And that's because they were promoting the idea of supporting those industries as well as the dairy industry. And along the way, we introduced a sugar that is starting to show up in the 1970s and 80s in virtually everything that you eat or drink, except raw vegetables and lean protein. You're going to find it virtually in everything. And you're going to have to start looking and reading labels, because the real thing about what keto means is you're getting away from sugar and you're burning fat. And so in a lot of ways, being in a keto lifestyle is not about what you do eat. It's about what you don't eat. I'm not talking about lions and tigers and bears, oh my. I'm talking about potatoes, rice, and noodles. Those are the things you need to be afraid of, because what they do is when you consume them, your body digests them and creates sugar in your blood that you burn for energy. Big problem with that. First of all, the actual process of burning the sugar requires you to continue to feed the machine during the day all the way into the night, because sugar doesn't last that long in your blood supply as a fuel source to the body. But fat, on the other hand, does. But if you keep feeding sugar into the machine will never burn the fat. So you have to get rid of that sugar and move from burning sugar to burning fat, something we refer to as ketogenesis, which is the origin of the keto diet. All right, so now if you can't eat certain things, what is it that you can eat? This is a standard meal for my family at dinner time. We eat lots of vegetables. Let's begin with that. Find yourself lots of vegetables, or find yourself a lots of vegetable stand to get those vegetables. And the point of that is you're never going to hurt yourself. You're always going to help yourself if you increase the quantity of green leafy vegetables. And no, cannabis is not a green leafy vegetable, at least for that purpose. But I think the idea here is that vegetables are delicious if you get them fresh and you don't overcook them, so they're crunchy and they're green, they're fun to look at, and they're fun to devour. And you can pour cheese all over them because keto loves the cheese. The other thing that we eat is we eat some form of protein that has a high amount of fat in it. So at dinner time, you're going to see a lean cut of beef. We eat a lot of ribeyes. Love those ribeyes with all that fat in there. And we're also going to be eating a lot of bacon. And really the idea here is you're going to be looking for various forms of fat because you're getting rid of the sugar and substituting other fats. So there's lots of really good fats for you. Things like avocados have all of this delicious, fantastic fat in it that will help you maintain your energy. I mean, I've become a guacamole fan. You've got to believe it. Now, if you take a look at the protein forms, for me, fish does not work as well for me because truthfully, you have to eat a lot more protein than you to substitute for these other foods. And the problem with eating fish is that for me, I have to literally eat enough fish that people think I'm a dolphin. I need that big steak or that big piece of pork at dinner time. Sorry, for those of you that are wanting to go on keto and maintain a vegetarian lifestyle, this is not the podcast for you. I'm the great-grandson and the grandson of meat cutters coming over from Sicily. I make no apologies for being a carnivore, and you won't hear one in this podcast. Now, the third piece of this conversation I want to have to you, which is relevant to the brand News Munchies with Ted Corliss, which I know at the conclusion of this podcast, you're going to reach over and you're going to like this podcast, and then you're going to subscribe to future podcasts. Then you're going to think to yourself, the question about cannabis I always wanted to know is this, and you're going to send me that email, ted@newsmunchies.com, or you're going to go and post that question on our Twitter feed. So the role of cannabis here for me works like this. Most of the time when I talk to people about being keto, they will usually tell me, well, wait a minute, how are you able to be in keto if you are a regular consumer, legal consumer of cannabis? That's because, from my experience, if you find the right edible, the right tincture that works for you, and I'm going to talk about a few of those in a minute, if you introduce those into your coffee, it, in my opinion, creates a bit of an appetite suppressant. And I'm not trying to deplete that. What I'm trying to do with my appetite is to understand that a lot of that has nothing to do with my body really needing food. It has more to do with the fact that my body believes that it needs some form of sugar. It's pretty bizarre to sit down at a table and eat a 22-ounce ribeye. I'm not suggesting you could do that. Maybe you could eat more than that. I don't know, but I don't want you to feel like you have to. But if you sit down and you consume this and you leave the table, you're hungry. You're still hungry. What is this? Why am I still hungry? Well, the reason you're hungry is because your body's pissed, because it's expecting you to be giving it sugar. But as you do this over time, your body kind of figures it out and it understands, okay, well, body, I guess we're not getting any sugar today, so I better feel satisfied by eating that ribeye steak or that bacon or that other forms of fat like peanut butter, lots of good stuff on there. But here's how cannabis comes into effect for me. I drink something called a Bulletproof coffee every day at 11:30, and that consists of a brewed coffee, something called MCT oil, that's MC as in Corliss, that's me, T as in Ted, that's me, but it stands for medium chain triglycerides. The reason our bodies love MCT oil so much, according to the bodybuilder I spoke to who used it for a similar purpose, is that it's immediately digestible by the body and immediately becomes energy for you. It bypasses your liver. The reason you want to do that is because you probably have, like I did, which is what triggered the keto life for me, a year ago, you were told by your doctor that you have the beginning stages of fatty liver disease. We've got to get that fat away from that liver. Well, so I started drinking Bulletproof coffees as my breakfast, and that's where I find myself now. And when I make my Bulletproof coffee, I'm going to go down to a local dispensary, or I'm going to buy online some form of cannabis tincture. Well, the tincture is going to be made from some form of edible solvent. That doesn't sound very appetizing, but it's this idea of putting it in canola oil, or there's some fantastic products out. If you listen back to some of our podcasts, there's a place in Boulder that I go to get my tinctures most of the time. It's called The Farm, and it's right there on Iris and Broadway. And it's just, Iris and 28th Street. Sorry, a little Boulder speak there for you. But The Farm has some fantastic, I like the Mary's Medicinals. And here's what I want you to look for. This is what I use when I have Bulletproof coffee. It's non-euphoric, which means you're not going to be high, so you're going to be going about your day as like a regular human being. Now, some people, you might do that. So maybe you try this on a Saturday when you're home and make sure that you're comfortable with whatever tincture you're using. But by adding this to the Bulletproof coffee, I use a 1-to-1 ratio, which means for every milligram of CBD, there is an equal but not greater than milligram of THC. So the importance of this is that the CBD and the THC work together. And for me, I find that to be mildly sedating, and it suppresses my appetite. And so that allows me to get through the balance of the day until I get to my dinner. So what's the meal that is the hardest to deal with? The most difficult meal to deal with is breakfast, and that's where you've got to start. You've got to look at your breakfast plate, and you've got to get rid of the sugar. Pour the orange juice down the drain. No more pancakes and syrup for you, at least not unless it's your birthday, and you can go to Denny's and get yourself a Grand Slam with lots of pancakes and syrup. But today, you're going to get up in the morning and you're going to maybe have some avocado with a little olive oil, salt and pepper, or you're going to have yourself some bacon, and make a huge area in your refrigerator for eggs, because eggs are going to come back hard in your life. And nothing wrong with that. All that cholesterol stuff about the eggs, generally not true. But you need to be talking to your doctor, of course, if you're going to make these kinds of lifestyle changes. So that's how cannabis comes in. And in my opinion, there are also some really nice edibles that don't have any sugar in them. So you've got to look at your edibles too to make sure that they're not giving you candy. That's why I like things like Chiba Chews has a really nice hemp product that you can buy online. And so maybe you have your coffee at 11:30 and you eat a Chiba Chew. And that will help kind of keep you cool to deal for the next 10 days. Because that's all I'm going to ask you to do is try this for 10 days. The last category we're going to talk about is you need to sit down and start your plan. But don't rush into it. That's not necessary. Begin by looking at what you had for breakfast today. And you have to eat something. And so as you look down, remove anything that is a carbohydrate. And instead of maybe having a couple of scrambled eggs and some toast, punt the toast, add avocados, add a slice of tomato. Tomato's got a little sugar in it, but I think for now, that's all right. So here you're introducing that high amount of protein, maybe some bacon if you can eat that, or sausage. Hey, here's the good news about sausage. When we first started, when my family went on keto, I started buying Link sausage because my daughter loves it, always has. And what we discovered a year ago, or May, June timeframe, was when I would look at sausage in the grocery store, because remember, you got to read your labels. You're looking at sausage in the grocery store, and you notice that they're adding sugar to it. Well, why? Well, because sugar's cheaper than meat. And so if they can stuff your sausage with sugar, then they save themselves some money in manufacturing it. But by the end of the summer and in the fall, we started noticing that in a lot of the sausage products, they were tossing the sugar. And I'm going to say it's probably because of people like me, because we weren't going to eat things. We wanted to eat a lot more meat, high fat, like sausage and bacon. But truthfully, we couldn't because there's just too much sugar in it. So you're going to make a plan. You're going to make a plan that works for you, and you're going to do it over 10 days. And then you're going to email me, and you're going to tell me, or you're going to go on my Twitter feed, and you're going to tell me your story about how you've been thinking about going into a keto lifestyle for a while. You've heard people talk about it, and you hear the enormous success that they have. I can tell you from May of last year to today, I have given up simply by a proper keto diet, given up 40% of my body fat. And you know what? I went back, they tested my liver, and those issues with my liver were slowly receding. They had been getting worse and worse and worse over the 2 years that preceded it. The one thing that changed everything was the keto diet. I believe you can have a healthy lifestyle and continue to consume cannabis, because we're going to maintain that cannabis positive forward thinking about it, not seeing cannabis as something that is going to necessarily give you the munchies, because it doesn't necessarily have to do that, but something that you can integrate into an overall healthy lifestyle. I'm very excited to be able to come to you to share these ideas and to share the ideas of others. And I'm again going to ask you to go to our YouTube page and subscribe to News Munchies, and take a look at our Facebook, Instagram. We have a lot of folks reading and writing and reporting for your benefit, and they're waiting to hear your ideas and your questions. Late at night, when you get the munchies, go to www.newsmunchies.com. This is Ted Corliss. Be well.